Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Miss. So, we're continuing series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, more specifically the progress on the Nintendo 64 core. Well, the work has buttoned up. Robert FPGAZumSpass has done an absolutely incredible job, but in a few games the core has hit a technological wall in regards to the RAM on the Jurassic DE10 Nano. So we'll explain to you what that means today, what's going to happen moving forward, and do a little bit of celebration and victory lap for everything that this core has brought to us. Because even though there's going to be a handful of games still left on the table that will not run perfectly, the amount of amazing this core has produced has been nothing short of epic. I've had an absolute amazing time chatting with all you guys as far as the progress reports are concerned in video, talking with everybody over on MiSTer Discord. This has been maybe one of the most fun periods of time in my life in gaming. Now the reason that this is happening is down to the RAM on the Jurassic DE10 board. While it does have enough speed to deal with recreating the RAM bus RAM architecture on Nintendo 64, in some instances the latency goes below where it needs to be. What that means is when it's trying to access information, it is not doing it within the amount of cycles that would be necessary to report back to the CPU side of things on Nintendo 64. This is not the RAM that you put on your MiSTer, it's RAM on the Jurassic board in and of itself. Some games call for this information to be accessed in a certain period of time, and if it doesn't get that, it is going to freeze the game. It's just basically a call and response. Imagining calling a friend and it goes to voicemail. That voicemail is the code not being accessed quick enough within that bus. This is a hard technological limitation. It cannot be worked around. You would need to have a faster situation in which that information would be accessed, and trust me, Robert has looked in every single direction. I've talked with him privately, chatted with him on Discord, and it's just one of those things. The DE10 Nano has hit the wall as far as Nintendo 64. So something like Conquer may occasionally freeze. Something like Jet Force Gemini isn't going to be playable on the current core, but I will show you in just a moment a list of games that have issues, and you realize that it really doesn't fundamentally matter all that much. This is Vampir's website. He's been a great documentarian for the entire project and a nice guy as well, and you'll see here that he has a list compiled by other people on Discord of the games that are going to have an issue. Conquer may freeze on occasion, so will Gauntlet Legends. Jet Force Gemini really isn't playable, but otherwise the list of games here really isn't that long, and honestly, if we can't play Rugrats in Paris, we're not really missing out on that much whatsoever. And that is what this video is, a celebration of what has been done and what is to come, because the core still needs to go into update all, it still needs to be buttoned up, and there's still a lot of fun videos that we're going to be doing. I've got a full controller guide for your Nintendo 64 core needs, I've got some software emulator comparisons, and I've got a lot of other videos talking about perfect games. But there is absolutely an incredible amount of fun to be had with this core, and the fact that this development basically happened in just a little over 10 months is like a speed run of developing a MiSTer FPGA core, and what Robert has left behind is just that impressive. I know a few of you will think of this as a loss, and that is not how you should really factor it into your head. Think about everything that has been accomplished. This core was long considered to be the impossible core, something that could not be done, and look where we are. Now, on a little bit of a technical deep dive on this, you're going to see on Jurassic spec sheet, you have the FPGA device as well as the HPS or hard processor system. This is where the problem is going to be lying as far as the MiSTer is concerned, and it isn't really even a MiSTer issue. This is just a limitation on the Jurassic board in regards to the RAM. Sometimes the latency just is not fast enough to recreate the RAM bus architecture on the Nintendo 64, and that can cause a little bit of freezing. But we're still here to celebrate everything that has been done. Things like clean HDMI mode, changing up the entire look of the Nintendo 64. Even if we're going to leave a few games short of a full playable library, we have gained so much more in this product. And I chat with Robert in the background. I know he is super thankful for all of the support everyone's shown him and all of the excitement. It has been so fun to go along with all of the progress, chat with Robert in MiSTer Discord and direct messages, and just kind of see what's coming next. And I know he was a little trepidatious to tell people that technological wall had been hit, but don't forget the amount of work he put into this thing, the amount of love, care, and attention he put into that code, and chatting with all of us is probably the biggest success of this entire thing. Because honestly, and I know this sounds cheesy, it's the fun in the work that is the real draw for MiSTer for me. Chatting with people, understanding how things work, and just watching the developments is way more fun than actually playing the core in the end. And we have things like the Turbo Core as well, which still exist and will persist in MiSTer FPGA, giving you a faster, better way to play some of Nintendo's Nintendo 64's best games. And honestly, if we have to leave Conquer and Jet Force Gemini on the table as unplayable to get things like this, that is definitely an amazing trade-off. And it's not like the Turbo Core trades those compatibilities anyway. I'm just saying that it's awesome. And you'll see here as we move around, we also have the clean HDMI mode for the 480i games, giving us that 480p frame buffer and making these games look better than they ever have before. This was such a revelatory experience when I first played this particular core build, and it's definitely how I'm going to play Castlevania Legacy of Darkness and Perfect Dark going forward. And we've got Perfect Dark, we've got GoldenEye, those are incredible experiences. And again, getting this 480p mode has been an awesome time. And that's the reality of this thing. Sure, it maybe doesn't run a few games, but it has brought a lot more to the table than it has taken off of it. We have so many new features, a Turbo Core, the clean HDMI mode. You get so many things that leaving this list of games is not that big of a deal. And again, I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed they can't play Pro Mahjong on the core. And that's the reality of the situation. It's just a technological limit. When this core was first started, it was long considered to be the impossible core, and there were so many memes and jokes about one game playable by Christmas. I think everyone got lulled into a false sense of security by the speed at which Robert updated that Nintendo 64 was a stone cold lock. It would never have an issue. We always knew with this process going on that there could and would be some sort of limit in the hardware. That just happens. But again, on the side of things that this core has brought us, we have so many new devices for MiSTer, so many ways to control Nintendo 64, so many ways to give yourself a better experience in a lot of respects than original hardware. And of course, I'm going to have a core review as well as some software emulation comparisons coming up soon. But honestly, I will tell you right now that for the games that work perfectly, I consider this to be the best way to play Nintendo 64. And I will do those comparisons. I know you guys want to look at them, but what I've just realized is it doesn't so much matter what one thing compares to the other. It matters the fun that we have when we're playing it. And this has been some of the most fun I've had in any sort of MiSTer FPGA development. This has been a lot more exciting and fun than Robert's PlayStation 1 core, and that was a great time as well. And the nice thing is, don't forget the few games that don't work on MiSTer FPGA, just use a different software emulator, grab your Steam Deck, grab your PC, and those like 6 games you can still play. It's not like they don't exist anymore. Or doing stuff like the video where 100% of the North American retail library was actually booting. That was a wild number, and that was last year. That was like 7 months from start to finish in active development time, from deciding to make a Nintendo 64 core to actually getting 100% of the library. And sure, something like Conquer might freeze now and again, but seeing this reflective floor in Banjo-Kazooie and just seeing how good this core is when it is working correctly, it is mind-blowingly good. And I'm definitely going to be doing some videos on what I consider to be perfect games on the core, including some of Robert's own requests when he said play something colorful. You're going to see that coming up to the channel soon, and that's the fun part. There's still a lot of videos to be made, there's still a lot of fun to be had, and it doesn't really matter if we've run into a little bit of a RAM latency issue on a few games. The fun persists, and you can't take that away. And now soon, when Cisco's to update all of you that have been watching, that have been waiting for the core to go to update before you played it, are going to get to have this experience for the first time. And I am very excited for you. Obviously, I've been playing this core for the last 10 months, when it would basically draw things at 2 frames per second, and you'd be racing around Mario Kart as black boxes, all the way up to being able to play Majora's Mask from start to finish in a better experience than real hardware. And all that fun, all that excitement, all that sense of discovery is going to be coming to each and every one of you who watches this that has not been in the active testing phase, because I understand not everyone likes to do the testing. They like to just wait for the finished core, and that is probably going to be coming soon, and I will definitely do a video when that happens. I'll go over all the diverse settings, how to use different memory cards and controller packs, and make sure you can get the most fun possible out of the MiSTer FPGA Nintendo 64 core, because the amount of fun to be had is near to infinite. And for a lot of you that didn't play Nintendo 64 back in the day, this might be the first sense of discovery you have for the console, and I'm excited to hear about everyone's first experience as well. But tell me down below, did you have a Nintendo 64 back in the day, or is your first experience going to be on MiSTer? I would be curious. And as a personal note, I make this joke all the time, but this core plays Bomberman Hero perfectly. I've got such such a nostalgic connection to this game. I played it at a point in time in my life where it really mattered to me, and being able to play this on MiSTer FPGA has definitely been my favorite gaming moment of 2023 and will continue to be my favorite gaming moment of 2024. So hats off to Robert, he's done an incredible job, and even if we're going to leave a few games on the table, the amount of passion, love, and fun that has gone into this core has been one of the most fun things that we've all seen on the MiSTer FPGA project. And again, it's not like he's going anywhere. I'm sure he'll show up with something new to work on, maybe later this summer, maybe this fall, and we'll get to go through this entire process all over again with a new piece of hardware. And don't worry, I'll be there to talk about the whole thing. But short of that, go play some Nintendo 64, tell Robert thanks in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.